Hey folks, welcome back. My name is Krishna, and in this video we're going to go through the process of creating a background using glyphs. I've talked about glyphs in Photoshop before with regards to making interesting structures or buildings, and this is a little variation on that theme where I'm using a glyph as a focal point for a background composition. So the way it works is you simply use the type tool, you select the glyph, you click on the glyph, and it will appear. And the glyph is like any other font. It has to be rasterized before you can actually use it. And what we're going to do is we're going to rasterize this glyph to be able to use the perspective tool on it. And I think that really opens up some possibilities. Now, a way to make a three-dimensional shape is to make a copy of your shape and then scale it down a little bit, and then create a bridge, which is basically a shape that connects the front to the back of this glyph. And I'm using the polygon lasso tool for that because it's great for making straight shapes. Option Delete or Alt Backspace is the keyboard shortcut you want to memorize for filling in a foreground color in Photoshop. It's a commonly used keyboard shortcut. I use it all the time. Hopefully, if you've been watching these videos, you've been picking up some keyboard shortcuts, and hopefully it's improving your workflow. Let me know in the comments below if that's been the case. I'm a keyboard shortcut junkie. So here I'm using the polygon lasso tool on the layer that contains that bridge shape, and I'm simply going to darken it up just to give a better sense of the faces of the side. I want the angled parts to stand out from the straight part of that bridge. So this goes to show that you don't have to really make anything super complicated. This background is being recorded in real time. It took me about 13 minutes or so to do, and you're going to watch that. The only difference here is I've just made some edits so that I can zoom in and zoom out to show you details of my workflow. But the original running time has not been altered. I'm using some techniques over and over again. You'll notice that as you watch the video, for the organic or less structured elements like rocks and backgrounds, I'm just using the regular lasso tool. I've had many requests to make some videos where I show this technique. It is quite versatile, and it does not require having a tablet. It does require having a good mouse, but if you have a tablet, it makes things a lot easier. And the basic strategy is you make a shape, and then on that layer containing that shape, you simply hit Command J to jump the selection to its own layer, and then you dial in the color with the hue saturation tool. So jumping layers is Command J, adjusting the color by way of hue, saturation, and brightness is done by Command U. And your imagination is your limit. You can just do just about anything. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just about having some fun. I haven't made any backgrounds in quite some time, but if there's any interest in having me make more painted backgrounds like this, let me know in the comments. I want the channel to be beneficial and useful to folks that are watching it. Some of you may wonder what happened to me over the last couple of weeks. My dad passed away last week, and kind of put me in a bit of a funk. Just came back from his funeral a few days ago, and just trying to pick up the pieces and kind of move on. So that is the reason that I haven't been recording any videos of late. Some of you may know, and some of you might have me as a professor for various classes. So as I record this video, starting next week, I'll be back into the academic rigmarole. So videos may be a little bit more sparse, but just hang in there with me. I've got plenty of great content lined up. It's just a matter of, managing priorities, and just be patient. So again, here I'm using these organic shapes. I'm creating organic shapes. I'm on the layer with the organic shapes, using the Lasso tool to carve out areas that are going to be highlights for some of these rocks. And you can see that Command J, Command U trick used again. Understanding how layers work in Photoshop is really, really crucial, in my opinion. And the basic idea, and I'm sure you'll find better videos on talking about layers, but think of the topmost layer as a piece of transparent film that is directly on top of another transparent piece of film. And so when you're looking from top to bottom, whatever's on that transparent film will be more visible than the items that are below it. So you can use that understanding to really help you work very effectively. I think that layers are a great invention. I may have mentioned this before, but the very first version of Photoshop that I started using was Photoshop version 4. And it was a very heralded release because it was the first version of Photoshop that allowed users to have more than just one layer, believe it or not. So, of course, I didn't really start using layers until I had a much better understanding of Photoshop. So for many years, I just would draw in one layer only. But as I became more proficient with the tool, as I started learning more about it, I started discovering new things about it. And that's the way it goes with a lot of these digital tools. Start simple, don't get overwhelmed. I don't use every single menu item, and I don't think a lot of people do either. We discover new things along the way. Maybe you're working for a while in a specific format, and then you get a little bit restless. You want to experiment a little bit, and that's where a lot of these discoveries happen. Sometimes it might be a question like, how do I do this? What is the way to do this? And you find some tutorial on the internet, and then you incorporate that into your repertoire. And that's how I've learned. YouTube videos came to me much later, but in the sense of my learning occurred from books and a lot of trial and error and self-teaching. And it is possible if there's interest. And what makes it better now is there's so many great people making content, so you can level up very fast. A lot of my backgrounds are very organic in nature. I think it's because it just gives me a sense of calmness. The opposite of that is all the comic book type stuff that I create, which is very bombastic and has a lot of high energy and movement. This is just kind of the opposite to that. It's something that I really do for myself, just to unwind and relax. And I have to admit that I haven't really been doing much of that lately. As I record this video, we're about maybe 5 or 6 subscribers shy of hitting that 1,000 mark. I'd like to thank all of you that have been subscribing to the channel lately, even though I haven't been making any new content. Thank you for doing that. And if you're finding value in what I'm creating here and what I'm teaching here, please go ahead and share it with a friend or 10. The idea behind this channel has always been to give a platform for anybody that is interested in learning how to do this stuff. Whether you're a student in my classes or whether you're just someone who may have a day job and you want to dabble into digital art and you want to get a little bit more proficient with it, that's what this channel is really built for. It's made to help folks get more comfortable with digital tools. Here I'm adding detail. So the way I work is I start out with shape, composition, You might have seen a little grayscale test that I did there. It's just to make sure that there's sufficient contrast. But details are always done at the end. It's like baking a cake. You don't start with the icing, you start with the foundation, and then at the very end you add the icing, and that's what I think details are in this particular case. So here I'm just making some adjustments. The very last step will be to add textures. So you can see that I've added some lighting by way of using a big soft round brush. I've talked about how to make that brush in a previous video. You don't need a lot of brushes, you just need a few good ones. Yesterday evening, because I really didn't feel like drawing too much, I decided to go ahead and use some of that time to make some new brushes for myself. And they're actually very easy to do. You don't need to buy brushes. You can make your own that work the way you want. So what you just saw that floated up there real quick is a series of textures. I like using some watercolor textures because they have some subtle variations here. This is a watercolor texture that has a very orange feel to it. It just gives a little bit more warmth to the overall composition. And what I'm doing is I'm just rotating this texture in such a way that I can use it to use parts of the texture for parts on the drawing. So the X that you see here, the front of it, I'm just trying to position the texture in such a way that I can make a selection of the front of the face and hit Command J on the texture layer to move that texture up above. I just don't plop a texture on the illustration. I want to find a way to use that texture effectively to make it have, to make it fit. So here now I want to apply that subtle texture to the rocks, but I just want to rotate the texture in such a way that some of those hard lines and edges on the texture aren't going to be visible. So I'm just moving them up into the sky. I'm going to make a selection of the sky, inverse the selection, Shift Command I, and then duplicate that. And you can see that texture layer is covering parts of the X and the rocks, so I have to just move it down so that it's not going to be as visible. So once again, thank you so much for watching the video. If you found some value in it, please give it a like. Let me know if you'd like to see more content like this, or if you have any suggestions, please feel to drop them in the comments below. As always, I greatly appreciate your support, and I hope to see you soon. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. There's a lot of videos that I've already created. Just pop through a few of them. Some of them may be updated in the near future. Let me know what you'd like to see. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.